The unsinkable ship that met the deep dark ocean. Introduction, the dream of the Gilded Age. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we are diving deep into history. We are talking about the RMS Titanic. Picture this, it is the spring of 1912. The world feels unstoppable. People call this the Gilded Age. Big factories are booming, steel towers are touching the clouds, and steamships rule the waves. People believe human genius can conquer nature itself. At the center of this big dream is the White Star Line. They build a ship so big, so luxurious, and so advanced that people call it a floating palace. Newspapers print bold headlines. They call it, practically unsinkable. It sounds like a movie script. But it was real. And on April 10, 1912, she pulled away from Southampton, England, on her very first voyage across the Atlantic Ocean, headed straight for New York City. Life aboard the floating palace. Step inside, and you are looking at pure, jaw-dropping wealth. If you held a first-class ticket, you were walking through rooms styled like French chateaux. You could smoke a cigar in a wood-paneled lounge, swim in a heated saltwater pool, work out in a modern gym, or dine on 10-course meals served on the finest china. Famous millionaires were on board, like John Jacob Astor IV and industrialist Benjamin Guggenheim. They dressed in their finest evening wear just to eat dinner. Down in second class, life was still pretty nice, better than first class on older ships. Teachers, tourists, and middle-class families enjoyed clean cabins and good food. And then, down in third class, the steerage area, were the dreamers. Immigrants from Ireland, Scandinavia, and all over Europe. They pooled their life savings for a single ticket. They wanted a fresh start in America. To them, the Titanic wasn't just a ship, it was a magic bridge to a better life. For 4 days, everything went right. The weather was crisp. The engines hummed a steady beat. Captain Edward Smith, a famous and veteran sailor on his final voyage before retirement, commanded the ship with calm confidence. Nobody, absolutely nobody, thought anything could go wrong. The warnings come in, but the ocean doesn't care about human pride. As the Titanic steamed deeper into the North Atlantic, the wireless operators, Jack Phillips and Harold Bride, received a flood of ice warnings from other ships in the area. Carpathia, Mesaba, Baltic, they all tapped out urgent messages through the static. Watch out for heavy pack ice and huge icebergs. Here's where human routine and overconfidence took the wheel. The radio room was swamped. Phillips was exhausted, trying to clear a backlog of personal telegrams for wealthy passengers who wanted to message their friends back on land. When a late warning came from the nearby ship Californian, warning of dense ice just ahead, Phillips snapped back, "Shut up. I am busy." The warning was never handed over to the bridge. Up in the crow's nest, lookouts Frederick Fleet and Reginald Lee squinted into the freezing night. It was a moonless night. The ocean was completely calm, flat like a sheet of dark glass. And because the water was so still, there were no white waves crashing against the base of icebergs to give away their position in the dark. The collision. It is 11:40 p.m. on April 14, 1912. Fleet sees a dark shape looming right out of the blackness, dead ahead. It is massive, and it is growing larger every second. He rings the warning bell 3 times. Clang, clang, clang. He picks up the telephone to the bridge and screams into the receiver, "Iceberg right ahead." Down on the bridge, First Officer William Murdoch springs into action. He yells orders to turn the ship hard to port, left, and signals the engine room to put the engines in reverse. For a terrifying, agonizing minute. Nothing happens. The giant ship responds sluggishly. The heavy steel bow begins to swing. Scratch. It is a quiet sound. Not a loud explosion. Just a low, grinding shudder that vibrates through the keel of the ship. Chunks of ice break off and tumble down onto the forward well deck. Passengers feel a slight jolt. Some look out their windows, see a wall of ice sliding past the starboard side, and go right back to sleep. Murdoch shuts the watertight doors. He thinks he has saved the ship. He was wrong. The iceberg didn't hit head-on. Instead, a jagged underwater spur of ice scraped along the side of the hull. It popped the rivets and buckled the steel plates beneath the waterline, opening up a wound over 300 feet long across the first 5 watertight compartments. Water starts rushing in like a river through an open dam. The realization and the panic down below, the mail room is flooding in minutes. Engineer Joseph Bell and his crew stay at their posts in the roaring, deafening noise of the boiler rooms, shoveling coal into icy water just to keep the lights on and the pumps running as long as possible. They knew they were trapped. None of them made it out. Up top, the reality sets in. Thomas Andrews, the brilliant naval architect who designed the ship, walks the corridors. He does the math in his head. The ship has 5 compartments flooded. Water will spill over the tops of the bulkheads like water pouring over the rim of a glass. The ship is going down. He tells Captain Smith, she has maybe an hour, maybe 2. The band comes on deck. Led by Wallace Hartley, the musicians set up their instruments outside the grand staircase and start playing bright, cheerful ragtime tunes. They aren't playing hymns yet. They are just trying to keep the panic down. Now, the math gets brutal. There are over 2,200 people on board. There are only 20 lifeboats. Those boats can only hold about 1,178 people. Not even half. At 12:45 a.m., the first rocket fires into the night sky. A brilliant, booming white flare bursts overhead. Officers begin loading the lifeboats under the rule, women and children first. At first, people don't want to get into the boats. Why leave a warm, brightly lit, massive steel ship to climb into a tiny wooden shell swinging over a black, freezing abyss? The first boat lowers with only 28 people inside, even though it can hold 65. People simply do not believe the danger. The final plunge as the hours tick away, the angle changes. The bow of the Titanic dips lower and lower into the water. The massive propellers at the stern begin to lift up into the air, exposed like giant mechanical claws. The mood shifts from confusion to sheer, chilling terror. The rockets keep firing every few minutes. Far off in the dark, some ships see the flashes, but their captains think they are just corporate fireworks or misread signals. They do nothing. Down on the decks, acts of incredible bravery happen. John Jacob Astor helps his young wife into a lifeboat, then steps back, calmly asking if he can join her because of a heart condition. An officer says no, women and children only. Astor steps back without a fight and lights a cigarette. Benjamin Guggenheim puts on his finest evening suit, saying, "We've dressed up in our best and are prepared to go down like gentlemen." By 2:05 a.m., the last lifeboat is gone. Over 1,500 people are still stranded on the tilting deck. The band stops playing ragtime. Witnesses remember hearing the haunting notes of the hymn, "Nearer, My God, to Thee," fade out into the freezing wind. At 2:17 a.m., the lights flicker once, and go dark forever. The strain on the middle of the ship becomes too great. With a deafening roar of twisting steel and breaking rivets, the Titanic breaks cleanly in 2 pieces. The heavy bow plunges straight down into the pitch-black depths. For a moment, the stern floats level again, like a cork, before filling with water and sliding straight down into the abyss at 2:20 a.m. on April 15, 1912. Silence falls over the North Atlantic. A silence so heavy, broken only by the horrific sounds of hundreds of people screaming for help in water cold enough to stop a heart in minutes. The aftermath and the rescue in the water, life-jacketed survivors cling to debris. Slowly, the cries quiet down. Officers in the lifeboats are terrified to row back. They are afraid dozens of desperate swimmers will capsize their fragile wooden boats in the dark. By the time 5th Officer Harold Lowe finally rows back to search for survivors, he finds an ocean of floating ghosts, hundreds of people frozen to death in their lifebelts, looking like statues under the stars. At 4 a.m., the first faint light of dawn breaks. A small, brave steamship named the RMS Carpathia steams through the ice field, firing rockets of her own. Captain Arthur Rostron had turned his ship around at full speed hours earlier, dodging icebergs in the dark like a stunt driver, rushing to save anyone he could find. By 8:30 a.m., the last survivor is pulled aboard the Carpathia. Out of 2,208 people, only 705 survived. When the Carpathia docks in New York City 3 days later in a blinding rainstorm, 40,000 people stand in absolute, stunned silence along the piers. No cheers. No music. Just grief. Outro. Why we still care. Why do we still talk about the Titanic today? It's been over a century. It's because the story of the Titanic is a mirror for humanity. It shows our incredible ambition, our engineering genius, and our art, but it also exposes our blind arrogance when we think we are bigger than nature. If you guys enjoyed this deep dive into history, hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, and drop a comment below telling me, would you have stepped onto the Titanic? See you in the next video. Stay curious.